Okay, I've started this session, so I'm just going to have a box, and you can see I'm drawing it out somewhere here. So I got one box at the back and one box at the bottom. So one box I've drawn from the top view, one box from the front view. I'm keeping this below, and I'm keeping this behind the main z-axis. Reason being, most objects by default come at the origin, so I don't want this to cover my object. This is a bit tall, so I'm going to shorten it in height and put it down here. I will go to materials, just get a standard material, a standard diffuse, double click on the material. I'll go to maps, diffuse, double click, bitmap, and I'm pretty sure I have a shoe somewhere in here. If I go to my max images, so what was that? That was the front view, so I'm just going to put this one there. Assign and view texture, show material in viewport. Now this one is a wireframe. I'm going to make this shaded so I can actually see this. This one is a wireframe, and I'm going to right click and say shaded. Oh, actually I should have said this one for the top one, right click and shaded. The second object, I've just selected it. I can make a duplicate of this by pressing shift and moving it. Yep. So that makes a duplicate. I can use the middle mouse button to scroll up and down. Now I don't want this here. Here the diffuse, in this one, the maps diffuse color, I would like the top view. And you can do this, you can draw your characters front view, side view, and you can really build your own characters. If you walk around watching some of the second semester students building characters in teams, you'll see that they're doing all sorts of stuff like this. Again, assign material and show material in viewport. So you can see I've got my reference. Okay. Now I'm going to freeze this so that it doesn't mix up with the other things. This one is too high still. I'm going to freeze this, but if I actually freeze it, it goes gray. So there's an option here called show frozen in gray that must be checked off. Once you check it off, then when you right click and freeze selection, you can still see it, otherwise it becomes a gray box, and now I can't select it, see, which means it will stay there as a solid reference. It will not move. And now the hard part is done. Now you can see I have this reference here. I'm just going to make a box. I know how much the box should be, and then in this view I can go from here to probably here. If I press Alt X, I can make the object transparent, and in this case I will be using a lot of Alt X. So that's my box. I will go to modify and give this guy some segments. I know I need at least 3 segments this way, but I'll add those segments later. I will add segments as I go on by using the connect tool. Okay, we'll start with these many, and we'll start with these many. I'll convert my box to an editable poly. It may take a few tries, okay? It took me a few tries to come up with that model I showed you earlier on. Now my boot is going to be worn by a knight, so it has to be a bit more heavy duty, you see. But shoes have a particular contour, and that's what I'm really after. I'm after the contour. Certain parts are bigger than certain other parts. Otherwise it looks like a box, you know. You don't want a box. So this part almost always comes inside. Part where the toe ends always goes outside. Some basic things. These I'm going to pull down. Down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this polygon and move it up here. I will slightly move it up there. I might get additional sections to fix that problem. Right now I'll just leave it as a quad. Okay, I'll just leave it as a quad, probably a bit higher. I'm going to now start trying to get these parts going. And you can see now I need sections, so I'm going to go to these edges. Go to these edges. I can either ring them. If I click on ring, and if I click on loop, what happens is it selects all of them in this line. Just see what ring and loop do. So if you have one edge and you say ring, it selects all of the edges in the ring. Okay, so this one, if I do ring, it goes around it, right? And if I click loop, it goes around this way. So there's a way to select more than one. And yesterday actually a student showed me with polygons, you can see ring and loop is disabled, but you can select one, press shift and click, and it actually does a ring and loop. So the shortcut still works, but the menu is not there. And yeah, that was a hack shown to me by one of the second semester students. So I thought, yeah, that was pretty cool. Anyway, coming back to edge, I want a section here. So I select all of these edges and I hit the connect tool. See the connect? Might as well have two sections. I'll go with one for now because I can always add it. And then I select all of these edges here, and I will go two segments here, just two. Oops, two, yeah. The reason for these two is this allows me to sort of give the back contour. And then I can push these guys around, so I get that kind of a contour as well in front. Now I'll just use one viewport. I'll come here, I'll come to perspective, and I'll go Alt W, so that makes it always. Select my object, Alt X will make it solid. Now these vertices here on top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push them up a bit. I take these two and sort of push them up a bit. So they're not in the same plane as the sides. You see, these two, they're higher than that. Oh, I got the back one as well. Thank you, Brian. So I'll just move this one also a bit higher. Coming back to the top view. Now this is where my opening should be. So I'm using the control key to select more than one. You see, these are the polygons. And so if I come here, so these are the polygons, okay? What I'm going to try and do is make a kind of mouth here. Now I don't want to destroy the contour. So there is an option here. The problem is if I forget to turn it off, it will be a grief. But the option I'm talking about is constrained to edges. I can actually go and restrict my movement along the edges. I can apply an edge constraint somewhere down here. Constraints. If I say edge constraint, see that point moves along an edge, which means the contour that I've already formed, it will not get destroyed. But the most important thing is then to find it again and turn it off. Constraint none. So this part is where I'm going to start pulling out the boot. Okay, and all the other parts I'm going to just add some more detail. I'm going to start pulling out vertices here using smooth selection, just so that I get a bit more of a roundedness. I don't know why I added those sections now. I'm just going to add these, pull these out. Pull these out. What happened? They rotated. The front is fine. I don't know why it gives me this front view here, and I've done something to my viewport. I'm not quite sure, but this front view. Anyway, I'll work in this front view. I'm going to move these guys slightly down, turn my soft selection off. I'm just going to try and move this. I'm going to take these polygons here, press shift, get that ring here. I'm going to extrude them ever so slightly, just so that I know where my sole is. You can see what has happened. It's extruded all over the place. If I say local normal, a local normal is a polygon is selected, the normal is perpendicular to a polygon. So if you have a ball, for example, local normal will put it all outwards, okay, and give you a nice spike if you want, if you like. So you can see the different options here. As a group, it goes together, local normal, and then by polygon, each polygon. See that every polygon separate? So I don't want every polygon separate because I want those sides to be fused. So I'm saying local normal, and I just want it ever so slightly. Okay, so that's just my heavy duty boot there. I didn't click. And I go on the tick. Probably a nice time to start assigning smoothing groups and to start assigning IDs. So all of these things at the bottom, if I say select everything inside this. All of this I can actually now go and give an ID. Again, there's a shortcut here. If I go to properties and IDs, I can say give all of this ID. Let's say ID 3. And if I go edit, select invert, I'll make that ID 1. Okay, so I've got 1 and 3. 3 is the soul. I just got to remember. Usually I keep a piece of paper on my desk to remember this. Now the top part, what I did was I took this image here and I replaced it with another image for my reference. So I need to go to, in this case I'll just refer to it by going to my folder. I think it's under Documents, Max, Images, or maybe under Scene Assets, Images. So you can see this is the contour I want. Okay, where the shank is and where the knee is. So I'm just going to go visually. I'm going to do this. If you draw a lot of characters, you will know these things automatically. So I'm not going to go into the detail and the ornamentation of this. If you want, you can unwrap it and texture it. I'm just going to do a cheat model of it. I won't. I'll just sort of visually keep referring to it. And as I said, the main thing is now these guys. So I'm just going to extrude these guys. So I've got it once. Yeah, I need quite a few. And I'm just sort of going 1. Before I add another section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these polygons. I'm going to take these polygons and just scale them. Okay? To be in the same plane. Just makes my job a bit easier. Probably scale it up a bit. It's actually destroyed my, I don't know why. I'm going to go try and get these points fixed here before I do this. These points, I'm just going to move them outwards. Because from here on only I need a nice circular cavity to pull out. So I'll go a couple of them, 1, 2, 3. That's enough. So the plan was, yep. I will use soft selection now at this point, just so that I can get these curves right. Then the shank, if I remember from my picture, was a bit outside, and this went a bit inside. This went a bit inside too. And then what I did was, for the front, I moved this up, okay, and I just moved these 2 points, further higher, so I get a curve. Let me reduce the soft selection. So just those 2 front points, just this point, press Control, and this point. Soft selection casts an influence on the others. Yep, yeah, right up to there. So I've got this in front. So if you go to perspective, press Alt W, you can see my boot is sort of ready, okay, and I'll show you how I did the details. What I did eventually was, I took these polygons, I moved it, took these polygons, I just did an inset, and then I took those polygons and I extruded them inwards. I took these polygons and I just went to extrude, and I just pushed them inside. Instead of doing a shell, I showed you shell last time, I just want to push them inside. I'm going to scale it down. Oh, because my soft selection is on. Just going to scale it down and push it inside the boot. You can see what it does is it gives me a kind of a hollow look. You see that? Instead of using the shell modifier, I messed up somewhere, but that was the basic plan. So I'll just turn soft selection off. That was the inset. Just extrude it as a group. Scale it down and move it inwards. So that's my boot. Okay. For the details, I'll show you what I did for the details. You can select edge, right? You can select an edge. You can do a ring, okay? Then you can do, I'm going to collapse this. Then you can do connect, and you can connect quite a few, okay? So you get a lot of these facets. What you can do with these facets is, you can select alternate facets if you like. And you can then bevel them. So when you bevel them, you can give them a bit of a height and a bit of an inset. So just adds details. And once you bevel them, you can move them up and down to kind of make some kind of a pattern on the shoe. So if I just deselect that object, you can see any kind of things, you know, like it's like an armor. It's a metal boot. You can add any kind of stuff that you want. Of course, I need to go and change my smoothing. You can see there are a lot of facets on it. I can apply a smooth modifier. A smooth modifier and say auto smooth. That will take care of most of it. Okay, most of it. But yeah, you got to assign smoothing groups. So for example, if I do want all of these guys, and let me go back to Alt W. Let me go back to the front view. So if I wanted all of these guys to be smooth, for example, so I need to select all of them and assign them to smoothing group number 1. I think I have it somewhere here. Properties, smoothing group. So I'll clear all, assign that to 1. Okay. So you can just try and make sure which part is smooth and how they fall through. Now if I don't, even if I don't have this, it should render all right. Okay. And finally, I just gave it a metallic, my favorite metal. I just went into standard. I gave it a reflection map. I don't think I gave it metal. I did give it a reflection map though. Just give it a sharpness, into maps, reflection, bitmap. I picked up something from Max library. Scene assets. Yeah, so the Max I've installed, I've just picked up concrete. I used concrete as a reflection map because it's got some noise. But if you click on a map, you can see there's a blur option. So you can just blur it up. So I've just blurred it by 10. 10 is a good blur for me. And I'm going to assign this one to the boot. Yep. Yeah, you can see need to blur it a bit more, but you can get a nice decent metallic boot. Or you can put multi-sub object. You can have a black one for the sole. That's what I did for my boot. I used multi-sub object and I used different material IDs. So I had a golden part, I had a metallic part, and I had a sole part. But yeah, just focus on the model, and that would be the last thing for your term. Okay.